Let me introduce myself. My name is Rebekah Rhodes. I'm head of research here at Espacio Solo. And I really want to welcome those of you that are here for the first time, especially. There are many people who've come from different geographies, which is why this evening's presentation interview is going to be in English. So we're very happy that you're here. And I'd like to say that for those that are new here, I should just give an idea of where are we and why are we in a place talking about Goya with a Mickey Mouse on the invitation. All will be revealed later on. But we're here in Espacio Solo. Solo is a project that started almost 10 years ago now. It's a huge experimental kind of a project that has different branches wandering off in all kinds of directions. But to give you a very, very broad overview, this is a collection now which holds over 1,000 contemporary artworks by around 280 different artists. We have our first home here in this museum, which you're very, very welcome to explore a little bit later on. And aside from that, we have numerous art support projects, different initiatives to really help contemporary creativity. They range from residencies through to prizes, through to dedicated teams that help artists that are working with a range of media, from artificial intelligence through to textiles, and people who come from a background in surfing and skate and music. So this really is a place where an awful lot of things happen. As most of you will already know, our event this evening is to coincide with an international seminary on Goya, grotesque and collecting. And Solo is very happy to be supporting that conference as an institutional sponsor. So I'm joined this evening by Paula Fayos Perez, and she's the organizer of the conference. And I'm going to have to look at my notes because her CV is far too exciting for me to be able to remember without looking at the notes. So Paula is Margarita Sala's postdoctoral researcher here at the Madrid Complutense University. She's also affiliated to the University of Strasbourg. She's worked as a researcher with the Wellington collection. And next year, she's going to be publishing her book entitled The Politics of the Grotesque. And that's looking at the influence of Goya on French Romanticism. So officially a really clever person, at least when it comes to Goya. And I've missed out so many things, so you can just imagine how clever. Okay, what we're going to do this evening, and quite briefly, is trace some connections between works that we can find here at Colección SOLO, and I'm going to invite Paula to give us her input on some of those works. So I hope it'll be fun, and I'm going to ask for forgiveness in advance from the super Goya experts among you in case I say anything too outrageous about the works that are here on show. Okay, before we kick off, I just have to say a couple of important thank yous, two special thank yous. The first thank you is to Ralph Smith. He's the president of the Cambridge University Association here in Madrid, and he's the person that put Paula and myself in touch and really got the ball rolling on this crazy adventure of putting together Colección SOLO and Goya. And my special second thank you is to my colleagues from Solo itself. This is an amazing place, as I think you're already gathering, and it's a place that supports a huge variety of different experiments and crazy creative adventures. And one of those adventures is this evening, where I hope we're going to share lots of encounters together. Many of my colleagues are here, so later you'll be able to meet, for example, Pablo Martinez, who's our CEO. He's there at the back, and you'll be able to greet him later. And Oscar Hormigos, he's sitting here at the front and smiling at us. He's our Chief Creative Officer, and he's also going to be around later. So we can all chat and have a nice time and get to know each other better when we've finished. Okay, so introductions over. I'm going to move my chair a little bit so that we can see what's on screen. Okay, we've had an amazing morning, and we're going to start with some images that Paula has suggested to me. Paula, what do these images have to do with what we've been talking about today and the first day of the conference? What are we seeing here?
So the first day of this seminar, of this international seminar, addressed the grotesque and everything that is linked to that. So the grotesque, the fantastic, the monstrous, the bizarre, and there's a lot of in Goya of that.
So here we've got Disparate Desordenado. Mm-hmm. Just tell us briefly, why was this one of the pieces that you chose for us to show and to kick off the evening?
Well, this is a plate from the Disparates, which is the last print series by Goya, and is, we could say, the most advanced, both from the technical point of view, because he already did 4 series, and even in the iconography and the representation of certain subjects, like from the Caprichos to the Disasters of War, then the Disparates, we have certain motifs that repeat themselves, and here we can clearly see these grotesque elements very strongly.
We've also got another work here, which on our huge screen is a lot more pixeled than probably it was in Goya's mind. Just run us through this one. Why is this one on your top list to open the evening?
So this one, so we see this apparently human figure, which is, it says, dicen que son de nacimiento, the horns, so he was born with the horns, but as usual, the Goya's captions are very sarcastic and very, so we don't know if it's a reference to being cuckold, you say?
Okay.
Yeah, something like that, or if it's just like some kind of deformity, but yeah, it's a good example of this kind of dark humor, grotesque.
So don't worry, because if you haven't found your horns on your head yet, it means you're not monstrous. You've got to adulthood without a problem. Okay, and finally we've got this one. Mm-hmm. Just tell us about the Desesperación de Satán.
If I remember correctly, I think this is a preparatory drawing for a print that was never engraved, and I really like the tonalities, the different shades that he uses, and of course this satanic figure falling like some kind of fallen angel, which is super grotesque, of course.
So if we fast forward to the present, we've had a look together at Solo's holdings to try pick out some works. Today we heard from a sculptor, Juan Bordés, and he was really interesting in telling us about different physiologies of the grotesque in Goya's faces. He talked about animals, caricatures, and pathologies. And here we have a work by Christian Rex van Minnen. It's not currently on show, but we hold a number of works by this artist. And I feel this is quite a good example of what could be this kind of bulbous, monstrous kind of grotesque in the work of this artist from the US. We've talked today about the sublime, and our current exhibition looks at the sublime through the eyes of a contemporary collection. And really for us, this work, Pyramid by David Altmed, which is currently on display here, so you're very welcome to wander around and have a look at it. David Altmed is a Canadian sculptor, for those of you that might not know his work. And as you can see, this is really Gothic, contemporary Gothic, brought into sculptural form with a mix of kind of hyper-realism and many different elements. For us, it has this creepy feel of something that attracts your attention, but at the same time repulses you, no? So I won't tell you more about this because you're absolutely invited to wander around Espacio Solo and find it for yourselves afterwards. Another thing that contemporary art often links with Goya is the idea of the uncanny. So this uncanny valley where technologies take us to robots or animated figures that are kind of too human to be comfortable, and we feel a bit shaken up by them. Many people see the uncanny as something directly linking with Goya. And we have a work that's a video work, just 2 minutes long, and we're going to show it to you now. So we're going to move out so that we don't disturb the video and enjoy El Rey de la Vida by Cool 3D World. So, sticking with digital media, the next project that I'd like to share with you is Tribe by Smack. Smack is a collective of 3 artists based in the Netherlands, and they're artists that are supported by Solo's patronage projects. So over a number of years, Solo has been working with these 3 artists, Tom, Ton, and Bella, to help them bring their ideas into reality. So Tribe is actually a whole population of rather grotesque characters, each of them individually designed. And these characters, here's just a selection of them. These characters are then deployed in different environments. We have a few characters here, and here are a selection of golden characters. The golden characters, I think, link with things we've been talking about today to do with caricature. The middle character, for example, the artists say refers to the kind of person who's spent too much time at the gym. And the figure over here is entitled Herr Director. So you can see there's quite a lot of humor there. And these golden characters, apart from their color, the background is a kind of bluish purple, so very much to do with these symbols of somebody being nobility, but referring to digital media, the kind of person who feels very important online because they have a lot of followers. One of the scenarios that the Tribe characters are deployed to is a work called Tribe War. And Tribe War is going to be showing in the space where we have our cocktail. It's a video work that's actually a generative work. It can be a live work. We've moved it today so you can enjoy it while you're having a drink and something to eat. So we're actually going to be seeing a 15-minute render. But what happens in this work, and you'll be able to see it close up, is that the tiny characters are all different colors. And they wander around an empty screen, and then for no apparent reason, the characters of one color start fighting against those of another color. So The artist described this to us as the way things kind of blow off in a pub sometimes, that there's, for no apparent reason, someone suddenly gets a pint glass smashed over their head, and then it's all hell breaks loose. So this is the digital version of that in the minds of Smack. And we can see that it has the kind of perspective as though we were looking down on these characters, as though they were bacteria swarming in a petri dish. Now, for me, Smack brings my mind straight away to a work like Duelo a Garrotazos. It's an obvious link for me. Probably the Goya experts in the room are horrified, but this idea of violence that is for no apparent reason, on a loop, going nowhere, repeating itself in time, generating itself over and over, connected me directly with this work. Paula, of course, chose something different. So Paula, tell us, what did you choose and why?
So, well, of course, the print series of the Desastres de la Guerra is was the most obvious choice. But within the disasters of war, we have actually a lot of different things. And many people think that the disasters of war is a criticism of the French invader. But I don't think that's true at all. I think it's rather a criticism of human violence, because it also shows the Spaniards being extremely violent towards the French or towards each other. There are scenes of people starving, of sexual assault on women. So there are many, many things. But when you showed me this piece, Tribe War, the first one within the disasters of war, the first I thought about was this one, because we can clearly see the two sides. So we don't have it doesn't show necessarily an idea of who is the good one and the bad one. We just see two groups of people, two sides who are killing each other and
even the title, for me, links with Tribe War. No, there's
with reason or without it. No.
You also chose another painting, this time not by Goya, and a lot gorier than Tribe War, I have to say. What connection did you see here? Why did you choose this one connected with Tribe War?
I think this is by Goya. So this is a scene of cannibals. There are a couple of them in the Besançon Museum. And we have here probably what is the epitome, the maximum expression of violence, no? Like the most brute and primitive form of violence. So it's a bit like Duelo a Garrotazos, no? The same idea of people destroying each other and the worst kind of instincts from humans. So it can be taken as a metaphor of, I don't know, war or just human society, or literal, that like people actually been acting like monsters, no?
Okay, let's move on from the monsters. Okay, the next works that we've chosen to have a look at, on the face of it, are not so monstrous. This is a work called The Gift by Victor Castillo. He's a Chilean artist, and we hold a number of works here at Solo. What attracts me to these works is the idea of, or the way that Victor Castillo uses apparently innocent figures like cartoon figures, children, scenes that should be happy scenes, like this one where someone's getting a present, but with these blacked out eyes and these sausage-like noses. There's obviously something a lot more sinister going on, very dramatic lighting too. Here we have another example, which is Poppy Toy, and another one here, which is Hollywood Dreams. So again, a recurring theme in Castillo's work is this rather disturbing images of what should be innocent and attractive. When I shared these images with Paula, straight away she's like, yeah, there's an image that I'd like to show by Goya, which is a bit surprising.
Yeah, maybe I'm the only one to see the association, but so the world of childhood, yeah, for Goya is very important, and I think normally I think he always sides with the victim and with the vulnerable, and he's always like trying to communicate this empathy towards the weaker parts of society. But I don't know if it's perhaps I remember it wrong, but I have this memory of this portrait being, I'm sure people here know, that this child died recently after that. Is it well, I don't know if it's okay. Okay, but yeah, I don't know why I see, and perhaps it's because of the cats that add this kind of threat to the painting. But I've always felt like with this extremely intense red and the intense look of the cat, and there's something I find something sinister. But yeah, it's probably just me.
No, I don't think it's just you. Looks quite doll-like to me. I'm fairly scared by this little guy as well. So we're going to move on. He scares me too. So, okay, this uneasy space where, let's say, cartoon characters, children, and violence all coincide is nowhere better expressed, I think, than in the work of Gottfried Helnwein. That's why there's a mouse on your invitation, and it's Dark Mouse, which we're very, very fortunate to hold here at Colección SOLO, and it's out there at the entrance, so you can get up close and have a look at it later. Helnwein has a huge exhibition right now in the Albertina Museum in Vienna, and a whole series of works entitled The Disasters of War, which are on show there. I've selected just a couple here. Here you have a more recent Disasters of War. Helnwein is very, very well known for his paintings, oil and acrylics, paintings that mix together cartoon characters and hyper-realist portrayals of children. And here we have an earlier Disaster of War, 24, from 2007. And very interestingly and shockingly, I think, too, Helnwein himself in the series Los Caprichos exhibits in the same space these dark mice, these dark Mickey Mouse characters with really shocking, violent pictures of mortally wounded children. This is pretty hardcore, but Goya is fairly hardcore. You were fortunate enough to see Helnwein's exhibition just a couple of weeks ago. And I think some people in the audience, there are even a couple of professional chefs here, they're going to be surprised with the first image that you connected with Gottfried Helnwein. So you've seen what Helnwein does, and this is what Paula's chosen. So what does Pavo Muerto Pelado y Sartén de Sardinas have to do with these horrendous images we've seen from Gottfried Helnwein?
So I think these still lifes are, this naturaleza muerta is literally dead, like it really portrays death. And if I'm not mistaken, they were produced during the Peninsular War. So for him and for everyone in the country probably, it was a time of deep pessimism and deep emotional distraught. So this series really show this kind of completely raw kind of horror, but something that is based on pure realism. So there is no grotesque per se, there is no deformation or monstrous. It's literally a dead turkey, but it's horrific to watch. And these brute, raw representations of violence and death, in Helnwein it was quite apparent.
I'm a vegetarian, so for me it is horrific. But for the rest of the room, you don't have to find any horror here if you're a fan of turkey. So no problem at all. Okay, the focus on children that Helnwein has also attracted your attention, and I was very surprised by this, although I'm a complete beginner when it comes to Goya. But you also pointed out that we should look at works like this one. Tell us a little bit about that.
So what I realized, I'm not a specialist at all in Gottfried Hellwein, but it really strikes me how he gives a lot of importance to childhood. And there are a lot of images where they are either not necessarily physically wounded children, but more threatened or in a position of vulnerability where adults put them in a situation of violence that they shouldn't be. So for as I said before with a creepy-ish child, for Goya, childhood is a very strong topic, and I think he felt quite protective towards children. And for example, in his drawings, he has hundreds of them, but an example, I think one of the creepiest, and like with this kind of implicit violence. So we don't see anything bad actually happening to these children, but I think we can all agree that something bad is going to happen to them. We don't know exactly what it is, but I don't know, perhaps they're being sold as slaves or even something worse. Like, and this female figure that looks absolutely terrifying. So he's clearly empathizing with his children, which I saw a lot with Gottfried Hellwein.
And there's another image that you wanted to show us. This image is open to a whole range of interpretations. Tell us a little bit about the debate or the incipient debate that there is related to this work.
So this image is probably one of the hardest to talk about because it could, according to some specialists, it could be a reference to pedophilia in the church. So as you can imagine, it's not an easy topic to talk about, but Goya really represents all sorts of violence, like for example, sexual assault towards women. There are a lot of these images. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's implicitly making a reference to that, because like the male figure on looks like a religious figure, and other than the kind of dark humor and eschatological elements, like what we can all agree that is extremely disturbing. And yeah.
Okay, we're going to move on to another selection of works. We've looked at grotesque works, monsters. We've looked at very violent images, but as a complete beginner in Goya, another thing that I find really interesting is the way that he puts social critique into works that sometimes on the surface of it don't seem to involve that. And looking at what we hold here at Solo, I feel very strongly that somebody from contemporary painting who does exactly that is Paco Pomet. This work forms part of our current exhibition, which looks at different interpretations of the sublime. And here we have this kind of bucolic scene. It's actually based on a found photo of an area of Canada that was when people started going on organized holidays, they would go and have a very nice afternoon there. And then we have this explosion, this mushroom cloud in the distance, and we don't really know if the people are just unaware of what's going to happen to them, or if they don't really care about what's happening with this safe distance, as Burke said, between terror and oneself. Paco brings a bit of humor, let's say, to the expulsion from paradise. And another image that I find very, very interesting, it's not currently on show, but it's nice and big here, is Social. So here you have this, I suppose, 1950s scene of perfect happiness. Everyone's in their beautiful suit or dress and they're all fine in their lovely home. But then, if they have a look down at their legs, something really not quite normal is going on. So I shared this with Paula, and she said to me, "Oh my goodness, you have to have a look at this work. What's going on here?
Okay, so
what's the connection
apparently
here?"
there's no connection, but I believe there is. So you said that this is a scene where apparently nothing is happening, and it's based on a realistic scene. So here we have this incredible drawing, which is buena mujer parece. So good woman, she looks, no, like perhaps. And we see this apparently naive daily life scene of motherhood, where we see this woman with a baby. But if you look at the caption, at the title, and you look at her face, you realize that there's something weird. Like she is like if she didn't feel at ease, or what am I doing here in this situation? Like what's happening? So there is like this uncanny feeling that is not just sweet motherhood. There's something else happening clearly.
Okay, so talking about this kind of social critique, we come to an artist who's here in the audience tonight, Carla Cañellas. For a Guiri, it's really hard for me to pronounce your surname, I'm sorry, but... Okay, so El Pelele forms part of a selection of works entitled Goya vive, la lucha sigue. And the real story behind this, for the lawyers among you, is a case which is known as the, let me check, Nahuel case. And what happened here, this is a bit reductionist, but to give you a very brief overview of the story. To celebrate, I think it was, I don't know which anniversary of Dragon Ball, a young guy tweeted, Goku vive, la lucha sigue. And this gave rise to a monumental misunderstanding on the part of the police, counter-terrorism, God knows who else. And this guy was taken to court for incitement to terrorism for publishing Goku vive, la lucha sigue. Goku, of course, is a character from Dragon Ball. Come on, police force. How did you not know that? He actually spent a year in prison, I think, and then, of course, was cleared of all charges against him. And this rather incredible story inspired Carla to mix together characters from Dragon Ball and scenes from Goya's cartoon series. So these series are apparently joyous, jovial, jocoso and pleasant scenes, but they do have a serious backstory and a social critique to them. And this work is currently showing at an exhibition in Zaragoza, Goya's home city. It's an exhibition also supported by Solo. We've loaned 14 works to the exhibition, and that's in the Pablo Gargallo Museum, and it's until December. So those of you in the room that are from Zaragoza, get there and see lots of cool Japanese things and Carla's work. Here you have a picture of Carla, so you can see the scale of some of her work. Okay, as I said, she's here, so you can chat to her later. Okay, experimentation, as I mentioned at the beginning, is key to Solo, and everybody at the moment is talking about artificial intelligence, of course. For many artists, it is a new tool, so people that enjoy working with a paintbrush like Carla does, of course, can do that, and some people are getting into working with code and working with prompts and so on. We have an experiment project here at Solo, which is called Ulysses, and we invite different artists to engage with AI tools and see what happens. So inspired by the Goya Symposium and tonight's event, Ulysses produced these 3 images. So these are entirely produced by AI tools using human prompts. And of course, when I showed them to Paula, and those of you that were with us today will recall immediately these 2 images. So, wow, what connection did you find from Goya through Delacroix to Ulysses?
Well, I assume, I don't know anything about artificial intelligence, but I assume it's taking different things from all over, from different places. So I wouldn't be surprised if either or even both of these images were part of the input that they received, because I think actually, one of the speakers today, they mentioned
Show
this.
them,
And so this is a capriccio from Goya, and this is an illustration by Delacroix for Faust. And it's obviously Goya influenced Delacroix, but even the aesthetics, not like it, the image of Ulysses, it really looks like if it was made with an etching or a lithograph.
So we have Delacroix drawing on Goya and Ulysses drawing on lots of images, but quite obviously drawing on Goya and Delacroix. So we have a kind of line going ahead here. Yeah. I'm going to just skip back to Ulysses, because you also mentioned to me when we discussed AI that Goya was quite ahead of his time in terms of technology too. That was something that really surprised me, and from my complete ignorance about this. So, what sparked in your mind related to Goya and his use of technology?
So, Goya was definitely working on the newest techniques as soon as they appeared, as happened with lithography, which I think he started in 1819, which was like the earliest he could do it. And he was very much like trailing the newest techniques. So I wouldn't be surprised if in his time, if he had lived, I think actually was one person in this room who told me some years ago that she wouldn't be surprised if Goya had lived 5 or 10 more years, he would be working on photography, because it existed already. There were people experimenting with photography. So, yeah, like the new technologies, the new techniques, definitely interested him.
So he was experimental. We have an experimental Goya to discover too. So, okay. If we're talking about AI, we can't fail to mention at Solo this guy. This is Mario Klingerman with Aika. Mario, just to run you through some of his works, Mario is another artist supported by our project. This is a work from 2017, The Butcher's Son. It won the Lumen Prize Gold Award. It was the first AI-generated output to win that award. And yeah, for people who work with code, 2017 is like prehistory. So this is an old work now. We've supported Mario to move forward from this work. And one very important work that he developed in 2018, a year later, with direct support from Solo, was Memories of Passers-by. Here's an installation view of that work. It was the first live AI work to be auctioned at Sotheby's. And this work produces a continuous stream of images, a never-ending stream of images for the viewer. So it's quite hypnotic. You sit down and you're presented with these morphing, maybe grotesque sometimes, images of human or not human faces. Mario doesn't stick with visual media. He's very much interested in language too. This is a work from 2020, which we also supported him to develop. It's called Appropriate Response. And what happens here, you can probably guess, is that the audience member has to participate. They have to kneel down, maybe say a little prayer to technology. And on the flipper board that you see on the wall, a text appears. So there's a whole question of interaction, and then whether or not the person believes that that text is written especially for them. So there's a whole experiential story around this. This work is on show right now. This is an installation view from the Outpost in Hanoi, where Appropriate Response is showing. And another very, very recent project by Mario is this robotic dog, Aika. Aika is from this year. And I have to say, when Paula said to me, I'd love to talk about Aika in the Goya evening, I was like, what does a robotic dog have to do with Goya? These are really interesting contemporary art encounters, but we'll find out. I don't want to give a spoiler because Aika is going to give a performance when we finish this talk, and those of you that want to see Aika's performance can go along and check it out. But just to give you an idea, what Aika does is with its little camera eyes, first it wanders around, with its little camera eyes analyzes an artwork, with its suite of algorithms that live inside its fluffy little body, it generates a prompt. This prompt speaks to AI text generating tools, and then Aika poops out of its little doggy backside a ticket with a review of the work that it's seen. So it's a robotic, artificially intelligent, critical canine. And we love Aika, and Paula does too. And she explained to me that this kind of scatological humor is part of Goya as well. So we've brought all of these hardcore, violent image, but there's another Goya, and here we have proof of crazy scatological Goya. Tell us about this. What are we seeing here?
Well, this is a letter to Martín Zapater, but yeah, he has a lot of, in the caprichos and in the drawings especially, a lot of different, very, not childish humor, but very scatological and very naive sometimes. Like there is a lot of dark humor as well. So yeah, definitely. Yeah, this is a very obvious example. But about
and we have another one.
Yeah,
we have another performance-related one.
Exactly. I thought that was this was definitely ad hoc with today with this double lens camera happening.
So what's happening here? Tell us what's a Tutilimundi.
So this Tutilimundi is actually today in one of the talks someone mentioned this phantasmagoria theater, puppet theater. So this was actually a real entertainment in the age of Goya, where it's basically like going to the cinema at that time, like it's the equivalent. So people, so there was a big kind of camera obscura, and there were different projections inside, different shadows or figures, and there was a lens, and people had to approach and look what was inside. So of course,
Paula, was it a peep show? Is that what you brought to Solo for this evening?
I will be surprised if there were things like that. Yeah, but yeah. So here, of course, Goya takes like this double intention with humor, scatological humor, and put in technology and a real life technology also. So
in a moment, we're gonna invite you to chase Aika into another room. But that would be a spoiler. So before we go, thank you very, very much. I hope we haven't offended any Goya experts. I hope you've had a fun time. And I hope we've drawn some unexpected connections between a project like Solo, a project really rooted in today, in what's going on in the art world right now with living artists, and with a huge figure like Goya. So I hope we've offered you, after the exciting symposium today and the exhausting day that some of you have had, and the jet lag that some of you have, I hope we've given you a fresh approach. And now this is a kind of choose your own adventure. So if you'd prefer to head straight for the cocktail, when you leave the little exit here, you have to turn right. And if you'd like to check out Aika's performance, that will happen in another room of the museum, and you have to turn left. So thank you again, Paula, for joining us. Thank you all for being here. And this is just the start of the evening. This evening was an evening of encounters, and there's lots of people here that are new to Solo and new to each other. So this is an opportunity for us all to chat and get to know each other. And I'm sure we'll all have fun doing that. So thank you very, very much. Thank you. Thank you. Wow.